as I always do on Tuesdays, 2:30, Awesemo.com golf show. Myself, Ben Razza, here with the man, fantasy golf man, Tim Frank. Florida. We're still in Florida, which is nice. Got through the Honda, onto the API. This is a good stretch, one of my favorites. What's going on, man? Are you I saw your tweet. We got a lot to dive into, a lot of shady business this week, but where you at? How you feeling?
Yeah, well, the Tiger news really kind of rocked everything, changed the look of this tournament quite a bit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Uh, Good event at Honda. Didn't have any Keith Mitchell, but
You and me
it was
both.
just a fun tournament to watch. I like -9 winning score. That's always a good event. I always enjoy those events where it's just a tougher scoring environment. And yeah, it was a fun event last week. I didn't really profit too much. Like you said, we were the only two people that did not bet Keith Mitchell last week, unfortunately. But
Yeah. Yeah, I expect we got more viewers since everyone's retired with their it
everyone's
seems
just sitting at home.
everyone's just on that Keith Mitchell money. You and me, not so much. I actually, and I don't bet a ton of guys. I kind of felt like I got a raw deal. I bet Lucas Glover and Brooks to win. Doesn't really close doesn't cut it when you're betting it to win, but it was interesting. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't love these -25. This was even without the wind, it wasn't easy to score. The cut was kind of annoying. I wanted it to be +1. I wanted JT out. He got in, kind of, but it is what it is. So we move on. This is invitational, only 120 guys, maybe give or take a couple, but it's not a full field, which I kind of like. There's still a cut, obviously, but it is a little easier to get 6 to 6 through. You can be more aggressive. Do you, just right before we get into everything, do you factor that in at all when you're making teams? Just tend to go a little more stars and scrubs on a macro level?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I definitely think you have to be cognizant of the fact that a higher percentage of players are going to make the cut this week than in you have field size of 156 at these huge events. 144 is pretty standard, and this is like I think 121, 122, somewhere right around there. So yeah, I mean that's something you definitely have to be aware of, that there are going to be more guys making the cut. There are going to be more 6 to 6 teams. You know, it would tend you would tend to think you would want to go stars and scrubs. I don't think you necessarily have to, but you should definitely be aware that yeah, a lot of people are going to get 6 to 6 through their. So this is a week that's yeah. I mean, I kind of like it. You still have some scrubs, but there's not a load of just terrible players at the bottom that no one is playing. I mean, everyone in this event is pretty decent. I mean, it's not a super stacked field, but I mean, there are some playable guys down here in the $6,000 range that I like this week.
That's the other reason that, again, you don't. This is not like, oh, stars and scrubs clearly, but it's a twofold situation. One, more guys make the cut, percentage wise, and two, even the guys in the low, and we'll obviously get there as we work down. It's not like these are the creative player dudes that I've never heard of. These guys are, when they get on a run, they're mid sevens in a standard field. So you can definitely go there. We're obviously going to get into it, but before we do, as we always do, we got the course. For me, I'll just give my thoughts real quick. It's not a overly, I think, tricky course. Is pretty standard. Par 72. Seems like you want to just kind of keep it in play, and as everyone is saying, just destroy the par fives. You get your chances. Kind of a fair test all around. There is some water. We're in Florida, but did anything stand out kind of that's a little atypical, or is that your assessment as well?
Yeah, I mean, pretty standard. 7,400 yard par 72. So, pretty long par 72. We have 4 par 5s. So, obviously, we're going to want to focus on par 5 scoring. I think length is an advantage this week. I mean, I honestly think this is just a length is an advantage every week. And we saw that last week at the Honda at a course that doesn't even really fit the Bombers. But, I mean, Keith Mitchell, that was not a place where I thought he would go well, but I mean, week in and week out, we see the Bombers are having success. Some of them will fall by the wayside in an event like the Honda or like here where there, can be some trouble off the tee. But I mean, there's going to be a couple that, go 4 rounds and kind of, make it through even at courses that don't quite fit their style. But yeah, I mean, this week I think is pretty heavy on the Bombers for me. I mean, last year we saw Rory and Bryson, even though Rory gained 10 strokes with the putter, it's kind of a strange way for him to win. But I think length is an advantage. Your general driving distance, par 5 scoring, strokes gained approach. I mean, nothing too out of the ordinary, but I will be focusing on some of the longer guys this week.
This is another course where, length is going to be, it's never going to be bad. But it doesn't require length either at the same time. Like you can be short. You could be Ryan Moore and play well here. There's no doubt about that. It's just, I think, your margin for error is a little different. These guys, as long as they don't go into the water, just being closer, being able to take shorter clubs into the par 5s, it is an advantage. And we have seen that. Obviously, Rory did win here. He did gain 10 strokes putting, which he should win any event where he even gains 5 strokes putting. So I'm kind of with you. The weather looks good. I know we're a couple days out, but the wind doesn't seem brutal. And when you're dealing with water, obviously, that's going to make a huge difference. Anything else, or do you just want to get into the last portion of the show, which is just talking about Rory for the remaining?
Yeah, we can just talk about Rory the rest of the way.
Okay, that's good.
No, I mean, I think that's it. Honestly, as time goes by, I get less and less into course fit. I mean, I used to be huge into course fit and trying to determine all these obscure stats that I really thought would separate the field. And then I realized that, the best players are winning. There's a lot of variance involved. And just try to find value and find some lower owned players, and don't get. I just have getting less and less bogged down in the attributes of the course and course fit and stuff like that. I mean, I know that doesn't make for good podcasting material, but I honestly think it's not as important as people say it is.
I mean, I've never been super keen. I kind of try to deviate. I think a lot of people, they get all their golfers and then they start doing things to all of them. I try to segment. I think stuff like course fit's way more important for your 6K golfer, like, because he's not good enough where if it's a bad course, he can hang around. But like, take the top 20 guys that, in these type of fields, they can win on any course if they play well. Again, I'll say, I just said it, the lower guys, they need to probably have things tilting in their favor, whether it's Bermuda splits or whatever, all these secondary things. So I look at it like everyone, but when it's DJ and it's like, oh, this isn't a great, I'm sure there's exceptions, but like, come on, these guys can do it anywhere, anytime. So we get to deal with that. As we've said, Rory 11-4, and now he's by himself. So Tiger was 11-1 on DraftKings. He's gone. So it's $700 difference between Rory and everyone else. So you got Rory, Rose, Ricky, and Brooks in the 10K plus. Do you anticipate going all the way up to Rory, because he's kind of on an island now?
He's not my favorite play from the top. Obviously, I mean, there's a lot of things pointing to him first and fourth here the last 2 years. Hasn't finished worse than fifth in his last 4 starts. I'm just smashing off the tee, gaining 1.3 strokes off the tee. Approach game has been good. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of things. Yeah, I wouldn't sit here and tell you fade Rory. I don't think he's a good play. But to me, my favorite play at the top is Brooks at 10-2. Second last week, gained 8 strokes with his ball striking. He was 27th in Mexico, gained 9 strokes with his ball striking, just putted awfully. So that's, 17 strokes off the tee and on approach in his last 2 events. I think he's every bit as good as Rory, Rose, Fowler, and he's the cheapest one at 10-2. Plus, he is a good putter. I like that. Some of these guys, some of these great ball strikers, it's like week in and week out, you're just waiting them. Guys like Rory, waiting for them to fall apart with the putter, or they just can never seem to get it going. Brooks the last 2 years, very good putter. Putted decently last week. I think he's probably better on Bermuda, being a Florida guy. So I really like Brooks at 10-2. I think just the price discount from these other players, along with the ball striking, has been so good the last 2 weeks. And a lot of people probably don't realize how good he struck it in Mexico, because he finished T27 and just putted so poorly. But yeah, he's been amazing. So yeah, I think Brooks is my favorite guy at the top. But like you said, like we say every week, these guys are all playable at the top. It's just, picking your spots, looking at ownership, and kind of going from there.
It's I mean, that's a given. Rory, he's going to be really popular, and he should be because everything sets up well. He likes this course. He's playing great. I think he's the best player in the field. Maybe not against Rose, but that's neither here nor there. The question that I think you brought it up, you touched upon it. It's not about just Rory. It's about, is he $1,000 or $1,500 better than these other guys? It's not. I would love to just jam Rory, but I don't think you can really do that at a place like this. It's not because he could come in sixth, but if Brooks wins, that's going to put a tremendous strain on your lineups unless you're obviously using both, and then we get into a whole other batch of things. So you have Brooks and Ricky who both played very well and are playing very well. The guy that's interesting to me, and I don't really know what to do, is Rose. We haven't seen him too much. Obviously, he won at Farmers. He's on the short list of the best players in the world. I think if you're looking purely ownership, you probably get the lowest out of him just because we haven't seen him, and Rory's playing so well. The other two were right there last week. But yeah, I don't know really if I'm going to be too aggressive. And I'm just going to throw, I know we just were talking about the 10K guys. What about Jason Day? He's the other one. I think he's with Rose in the sense he hasn't been, he wasn't in Mexico. He hasn't been on people's minds. Do you think he comes in a little lower owned relative to these guys up here?
No, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's hard to say. I think he probably will, just because we haven't seen him in a while. But I mean, he's the 3 times he's teed it up this year, 4th, 5th, and 13th, very good. Obviously, a past winner here. So yeah, I mean, I do like Day at 9,900, but I mean, between him and Bryson, I guess I would probably have more concerns with Bryson coming off of that performance in Mexico, being just god awful, spending just out there with like the flashlight on the putting green, trying to get things figured out. It was a little concerning.
Yeah. Then he'd putt worse the next day.
For me, yeah, I just never seen him turn it around. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess I kind of drew the line at the 10K mark and didn't really consider. I know it seems strange, even though he's 9,900, just didn't kind of consider Day with the top options. But yeah, I mean, I like Day, and yeah, I don't think he'll be that popular this week.
Yeah, you're gonna have to mix and match, obviously. They're all playing. I didn't see a ton. It's not like we have like polarized. Like Spieth isn't here, and he's dropped in price anyway. But there's no one really playing bad. Of the last year, like Rory was struggling, other guys were struggling. They're all playing like world class players, so you're gonna feel pretty comfortable. Bryson, obviously, I still don't know exactly where he falls. Yeah, I think this is a good course for him though. So we'll get in there, and then you got Leishman. As we work kind of in the lower nines, you're going to be able to pair these guys up. I'd be pretty stunned to see anyone start with someone like Leishman. To be honest, it's a lot of win equity that you're sacrificing. But Leash, Decky, Phil, who we don't need to talk about him, Fleetwood, and Molinari. Those are guys. I think they make pretty nice second pieces. Do you have a preference as we work down?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to keep going back to the Hideki well. Just keep striking the ball great. Just hasn't quite got there to contend. 19th, 9th, 15th, 3rd in his last 4 starts. The last 5 events, he's gained 28 strokes with the ball striking. So just striking it really well week in and week out. We're just kind of waiting for that 1 week where maybe the putter's a little bit better. He just goes into full Hideki bot mode and starts crushing people, which, we know he can do. We've seen him win against strong fields in convincing fashion. So I think 9,300, really good price for him considering, how well he's been striking the ball. And, he could be right up there with the 10K players.
Absolutely.
I consider him to be every bit as good as those guys. The price dropped a little bit just because last year I think he battled some injuries, didn't play well. But, I mean, he looks like he's on his way back. The course history isn't really good here, which is fine with me. I think that actually helps keep the price down a little bit. But he's definitely my favorite option as a second guy, and he's just playing so well. The ball striking has been great. So yeah, I love him. I don't even think it's close between if you said him, Leishman, or Phil.
Phil.
Yeah, I mean, we never play Phil.
No, we don't have time for that. Fleetwood's the guy for me, and there's definitely some bias in there. I've been playing him, and I felt like Mexico. On Friday, like a little early. He stormed on Friday, and then his weekend was awful. I do think this is a pretty good course for all these guys. long irons are going to be prevalent here, especially if you club down off the tee. Decky is, we'll get to Stenson, obviously, but Decky's on the short list of guys. When I think of a course like that, it's right in his wheelhouse. He's playing well. Hasn't had a great course history here, and I kind of like that because with these guys, that doesn't matter. It's very negligible, and you don't get it priced into the algorithm, and you don't get people who are just like, oh, Decky's been, second, third, fourth, and fifth here, like Stenson. So we'll see where that goes. Molinari, I'm not sure what to do with. Again, very good. He gained strokes off the tee without being long, and that can be successful here. It's not the formula per se, but it's not like that can't work. I still don't know if I consider him a 9K player in a field like this. Is that egregious, or is that okay?
Yeah, it's kind of a strange price for him. It's really hard because we saw for years where he was just a consistent guy who'd never, like a poor man's Paul Casey, where we loved playing him when he was cheaper because he always made the cut, always, seemed to kind of exceed value. And then he just goes on this insane heater in like the middle of last year. And we're like, it's hard to kind of reconcile. Did he become a totally different player? Did he just run hot? I tend to think he just ran insanely hot for a stretch. And he's more likely an 8K player than he is a 9 or 10K player, like we saw in the middle of last year. So yeah, I'm with you. The course history is good, but we just really haven't seen him,
that's the thing,
much at all this year. So you're really kind of taking a stab in the dark. And plus it's kind of an elevated price from, if you're taking an extremely long-term look at him. I mean, this is still 9K is still on the higher spectrum if you want to take like a 2-year sample size of Molinari, I think.
I'm with you. You can't play, as much as we talk about all these guys are great, and they are, you can't play all of them. You can't get over on everyone. You only get 600% with your 6 golf. You can't have 50% of every guy in the field. That'd be nice, but don't work like that. So the ownership is going to correlate, though. So it's always that balancing act. Molinari, I don't anticipate being too popular either. But for me, I'd rather, as we work down into the 8K range, there are other guys. I mean, the guy right below him, Patrick Reed, if I had to take one of them, I would go Reed. And then this is where it starts to get a little shaky. We got Billy Ho and Berger, all your favorite guys to talk about. Kokrak, which
that guy just needs to go. He needs to shoot 290s and just punish everybody that plays him this week.
He always is. First of all, he scores like a banshee, and then he gets where there's no chance he can be cut, and then he slowly ejects to the point where I get false hope. I'm just like, all right, wow, couple more bogeys and he's gonna be out of it, and then he never gets cut. This has got to end, right? Like, what is happening here?
It's gonna end. And I just want to say, below, from Fleetwood down to like between Fleetwood and Glover, I absolutely loathe every name from like 9K down to like 8,200.
I could do without these people.
I started to write Reed on my list here. He was 7th here last year. He's actually playing kind of well, kind of sneaky well, until I got to the part where he's gaining 0.967 strokes putting and like just awful everywhere else. That kind of scared me off of Reed. I mean, he is a good putter. We'll give him that. But he's just like doing it with all putting. So that kind of scared me.
That's with Berger too. He putted really well last week. His irons were, I don't even want to say they're bad. They were, new term, I don't even know what we call it, just horrendous. So that is scary because it's not like they can't sustain it. But when you're asking them to gain 5 strokes just to get through, to give you a middling finish, it's hard to have upside. What's he going to do? Gain, Billy Ho. Only Billy Ho can gain 5 strokes putting around. No one else can really do that.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, it's like once we get past Fleetwood, I'm skipping over all these guys. I hate him, and I just don't like him because when we get down to the mid-7 range, you'll see that the players there are exactly the same quality of players that are at 8,500, and it makes no sense to me. So yeah, I would say the first guy we would get to, in the 8K range that I have any interest in is Glover, just because the ball striking has been good. 8,200 I think is a fair price coming off a 4th and a 7th. Prior to that, he had a missed cut, but then he was 12th the week before that. So 3 very good finishes in the last 4 weeks. gaining almost a half a stroke off the tee, gaining 0.7 on approach, and he's actually putting pretty well, gaining 0.3 of a stroke putting. I mean, we've been used to seeing Lucas Glover in the Keegan Bradley, Benny On range of like almost dead last in putting. So he's putting well, and if he can keep that up, I mean, he's been a great ball striker for like 15 years now. I think 8,200 is a fair price for him.
This little range is where it gets really wild to me.
Yeah, well, it's like now I just keep seeing more guys that I like. I'll go to Bubba, who I think is.
Ooh.
I think he's an amazing play at 8K. I mean, you have to realize what you're getting into. It's like when you roster Bubba at 8K, you're never getting an 8K player. You're either getting a 6K player or a 10K player. You just don't know which one it is until he tees off. But, at a course where length is an advantage, where there's 4 par 5s, that it's going to give up some birdies and eagles. This isn't a birdie fest by any stretch of the means, but there are going to be eagle opportunities. I just think the course is, the course sets up well for him. He was, T27 in Mexico, not great, but his 15th at Riviera, 4th at Waste Management. I mean, he's playing okay. He's playing, pretty decent. And I think for AK, the upside that he brings, with win equity and with, birdie and eagle making, ability, I think it's really good for AK. I mean, just be aware that he could go out and be completely terrible. So don't, at me and say, like you said, to play Bubba and he's, shot 47 on the front nine and withdrew, because that's like within the range of possibilities. But
that's right. At
8K for the amount of upside and win equity he brings as like a third guy in your lineup, I really like that.
Do you feel the same way about Stenson? Because
Nope. Because he missed 3 straight cuts. He missed 3 straight cuts on the Middle East tour or Middle East swing on the European tour, and then we saw him in Mexico and he lost 5 strokes with his ball strike. I mean, he didn't play well in Mexico. He didn't strike the ball well.
I'm going to Stenson. I've avoided Stenson through this. I'm doing it. Home game, loves the course. There is no stat you're going to find in recent form that's going to lead you to this. The thing with Stenson, we're going to have to monitor. This is a true test of what trumps what in terms of ownership, because people are going to see the course history is incredible, and people are going to see the recent form, which is awful. It'll probably fall somewhere in the middle, but I am putting it on the record. I have definitely going to have some Stenson this week. I'm with you on Bubba. It's just, I can't live in a world where Coke Rack is more expensive. I don't care how well he's playing. Like, what are we talking about here? I don't know. The other guy, and Chap just brought this up, I think it's a real good question. Ian Poulter, what do you think about him?
Yeah, I was gonna fire him up too, but I just didn't want to talk forever. He is playing.
That's what the people want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, third, sixth in his last 4 events. I mean, that is really, really good for AK. Yeah, I like Poulter a lot. I like Bubba a lot. I don't think I can get to Stenson. I don't think that he's just going to show up I don't believe that guys just show up to courses and play well just because they have a great course history. And I know that's not what you're insinuating or saying, but it's just like he was bad. And I think the 54th at the WGC at a no-cut event, people are going to glance at that and somehow they're going to think
upward.
They're like, oh, it's all right. But there was no cut. If there was a cut at the WGC in Mexico, he would have missed it. So.
Yeah, that's the old, he T15'd at the Hero. It's like, I want to read a little more into that.
He's trending upwards.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
No, I'll say this. I think I'm specific with this take in it being Stenson, because he's the type of guy where he's been around. He's Stenson. He's not the most, I don't think he's too worried about the Middle East swing. Obviously, he needs to play better, and it doesn't look like he is playing well. But I would have a lot more concern if it wasn't a guy who's been there and done that a lot. So we'll see. Obviously, show tomorrow night, I'll have more takes than just we'll see. But
you talked me into Stenson at the WGC. I'm not letting that happen again this week.
That's fair enough.
Not happening.
I don't know. We got Usti, right? God, it's. Boy, this range. If you can get this little, like, we have some characters. I know Bubba, Stenson, Usti, List. Like, it really is absurd. We did just rattle them off, and I think these guys are going to be all pretty decent ownership just because they seem underpriced. And you're right. if you replace them with the 82 to 9K guys, would anyone really say anything? Like, I would say good because Kokrak's lower price, get him out of here. But other than that, I think that's where I'm at. But as we go down, we break into the 7K range. I'd mentioned the top two clowns. Then you got JB, Siwoo, Zach Johnson, who didn't get it done. Nelson wants to know, we're holding your outright bet to the end. That's what the people really want to hear about.
So they know who not to bet.
Hey, you and me.
Who's going to lose 9 strokes putting? That's whoever I bet.
Woody Hadwin, and then Kokrak's partner in crime, Michael Thompson, who I will have some things to say about that guy in a second. What do you make of the sevens, or is this another dead zone for you?
Yeah, I like some guys in the mid sevens. Siwoo is another guy. I put him in the Reed basket, who looks really good coming off a third and a fourth, and we know he has upside. But I mean, he's gaining almost a full stroke putting, which is, I mean, for him is outrageous. So that kind of scared me off too. You see third, fourth, it's like 7,800, decent score, or decent price for coming off of 2 top 5 finishes. But man, I just don't think I can get on a guy who's traditionally a bad putter who's gaining almost a stroke a putting per round. If you want to play bad putters, I would just go to Benny On, who I actually like this week. I normally don't play. Gained almost 7 strokes with the ball striking last week. Putted horrifically again, but it's 7,500. I like that. I like Benny On at a cheaper price rather than paying up for him when he's like 85, 8,900. I mean, I think this is kind of the places where I like to take on, where even if the putter's bad, I mean, he's making cuts. Ball striking has been there. The ball striking's always there, but I think that's a decent price for him. And the guy that stuck out like a sore thumb to me was RCB at 7,500. I have him at 60 to 1 outright odds. And I mean, we have Berger at 60 to 1, Bradley at 60 to 1, Hatton. I mean, I think RCB, you could make a case that he is $1,000 underpriced. I mean, he's been playing very well. 4 of his last 5 finishes were top 25s. So he's one of my favorite plays as well. So I think, I prefer RCB. I mean, you could put him right in there with any of these guys in the mid to upper 8K range. I don't think anybody would bat an eye.
No doubt. I'm a RCB fan. Again, another good with the irons. Has some experience now. Last year it was kind of, he's getting acclimated to an extent on some of these courses, but I don't believe he has history here. But that's neither here nor there. Benny On is quite a character. He made my article this week, which is on the site. As I always say, feel free signing up. You can use the promo code JazzRaz. We have all sorts of stuff behind the paywall, but I will say he did make the article, and it's just, I know we're not the only people saying this, but it's just too hard to ignore. When you're losing 5 or 6 strokes every week putting, and it's not like his form is like he's coming in. He was fine last week, not what you were looking for. But I mean, how much damage can you really do when you putt like that? So we're not even talking he needs to gain 4 strokes, but if he gains 0 strokes putting, I would take that this week and gladly roster him.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's not like he's missing cuts. I mean,
no, it's in this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 36th, 45th, 20th, 12th. I mean, yeah, if he goes just break even with the putter this week, you're probably looking at like a top 15 finish easily. So,
no, I mean, he doesn't have. I would say, Bermuda. I mean, it doesn't matter with this guy. It's not good anywhere. But you have more. There's a couple of things about him specifically. You mentioned this. His price. There's more room for him to be egregious with the putter and still wiggle out of it, because if he comes in 25th at 7,500, it's not that big a deal. 2, the way his long irons are also great, and he can really destroy these par 5s. So the goal with him, if you're saying he's not going to putt well, is okay, on all these holes, get 20-foot putts to putt, which he can do half the time. Now, he can do that enough. And then on the par 5s, again, just lag it up there and make a couple of 3-4 footers. It's not like a course where I always use John Deere as the example, where you have 15 8-foot birdie putts and you need to make 10 or you lose strokes. That's not the format for him. This is more of a grind it out, and he can lean on the ball striking. So I'm with you. I just want to say Michael Thompson, He was popular last week, and I got it. I don't disparage anyone who went there, but his stats, he lost 4 strokes with the irons and gained 9 strokes putting. That was not what that was just one of those plays that got there that shouldn't have based off those. I'm
That's the
not
definition of just sucking out when you roster
so
Michael
pure.
Thompson.
Like if you used him and he helped you, that is some run good, which is never a bad thing. What else we got? Do you want to talk about ZJ or do we want to pretend he doesn't exist?
I mean, I don't love him, but what was he dead? He was almost dead last in strokes gained putt. Yeah,
Yeah,
lost
which is
6
an
points.
anomaly. He's not a Benny on type putter.
Well, it's not an anomaly because I bet him.
Well, that's
happens
fair.
to the guys I bet. Yeah. I don't love the course fit. I don't love the fact that he's not, a birdie maker. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind going back there considering he's not a bad putter and he lost, almost 7 strokes putting last week. So, but there's other guys I like in this range. He definitely wouldn't be a priority, but I do think that the 59th last week is a little misleading based on the putting. I will say that, but definitely not a priority for me at this price range and at the course
No,
this week.
get him out of here. Just in all facets. All right, now we got, there's always a point, and this is where for me, like, you have RCB, Benny Allen, the guys we just talked about, and then it drops to, I think, a more dicier situation in the lower 7K range. You have some of the European guys who have come over that haven't been staples, and Matt Wallace Fitzy, who's, I don't mind that actually. Haotong Lee is there. And then we've got your favorite guy on tour, Bo Hostler. All the characters. Do you have anything in this range, or is this? I didn't find too much besides dart throws, guys who do one thing kind of well. Not a lot of complete players in my book.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton that I like in this range. Kisner a little bit, just because, like I've said, the ball striking isn't great, but it's so much improved this year from last year where he was just awful. We know he's a good putter. We know he prefers Bermuda. I don't love him at this course, even though he should have won here 2 years ago. Generally like him at shorter courses. But I wouldn't have a problem with him just based on the fact that he's such a good putter. Ball striking has been improved this year, even if it's not great. Going down, have no clue why Kyle Stanley is 7,100. The guy is playing like he should be on the web.com tour. I wouldn't mind going to Sung J M. I know he just completely fell apart last week. Got off to a great start, obviously 36-hole leader. Then the weight of Twitter premature victory laps got to him, and he got crushed. Still gained 3 strokes with the ball striking. Which coming off of 2 missed cuts, I wouldn't mind, paying $7K for them. I think it's a perfectly reasonable price considering, we saw him string together so many good ball striking performances, came back with 2 missed cuts, and, the T51 doesn't look good, but he still struck it pretty well, got out to a good, obviously 36-hole lead. I think 7K is a good price for him.
No problem with that. That was just a bizarro situation in all ways. I got a couple, so I don't want to go right back up, but who didn't get it done last week was Scott Piercy, who was just god awful. He is 7,300 though, and Benny On is more of right now playing better and better ball striker, and I don't know if you could be a worse putter than Scott Piercy, but Scott Piercy is in that bucket too. So as a one-off, I'm not gonna say I'm completely ruling him out because he still does strike it pretty well. Last week was bad. A lot of water, though. Those stats, you're going to see high variance when you look at tournaments like the Honda, though. You want to keep that in mind. Who else we got here? We talked about this with RCB. To me, Sneds could be 8,100 in this field, and I wouldn't say anything. Obviously, he has a ton of history here. I know he dominates POAs sometimes, but he's just a good putter in general. No thoughts on Sneds, or are you just kind of indifferent?
Yeah, I would say I'm indifferent. I mean, I would never have a problem with Snedeker at this price because we know when he plays well, he wins. I mean, he wins a lot of events, and I would rather take a shot at a guy who wins a lot of events at 7,200 than a guy that doesn't. Obviously, the win equity is there if he is playing well. I don't really love the course fit. We generally see him play well in much shorter courses, and just the form just hasn't really been there. for him. So, I mean, I think if he's in better form, I wouldn't mind taking a shot at a longer course where I don't think it fits so well. But I think the combination of longer course and just kind of not great form, I don't see it. But I mean, you never really have to talk me into Sneds because we know if he plays well, he can win this event. He can pretty much win any event outside of a major, maybe. But the one thing about Piercy I will bring up, and I don't really put much credence into it, but I just remember last year I bet Scott Piercy here, and then people were just coming out of the woodwork. They were like adding me on Twitter about how he said he hated this course, and I was just like, well, I mean, why is he playing here if he hates it so bad? And then of course he missed the cut, and I was just annoyed at everybody and didn't want to listen.
Sounds all too familiar.
Well, it's like if you hate the course, why are you playing? Go, you don't have, skip this week.
That stuff. It's not bad to know that, but I don't. Last week Scott Piercy went on Twitter and was talking about, well, he won on Bermuda at Zurich, ... and then he got to watch the last 2 rounds. So it is what it is. He hates the course until he wins here, and then he loves it.
Yeah, he won on Bermuda at Zurich while Billy Ho just put his dead carcass over his shoulders and carried him across the finish line.
It's like when Billy Ho is pulling the weight on the team. One other guy here, and again, it's not going to fit what the prototypical guy blueprint, but Clark brought up, I think, a pretty good point. Kevin Na striking it pretty well. I will build some teams that are, a little atypical. Guys like him, scramble, can be creative around the green, not the longest hitters. So these are not cash plays, but as a one-off, I don't know. I can mess around with some Kevin Na. What do you think? Or is that just asking for trouble?
I never play Kevin Na because I don't like watching him on television. So it's like I don't want to root for him because if he's in one of the last couple groups, then we have to watch him and all this quirky.
Yeah, Monday finish automatically. So sick. And then we're working down to the Sanjay M territory. I will say that you said Kyle Stanley just is awful, but the other guy who had been awful and showed a little life is Aaron Wise. 7K, and he, unlike the guys I was just talking about, he can do some damage off the tee. I don't know how aggressive he'll be at a course like this, but I kind of group him with Woodland, with List, as guys who they certainly have power off the tee, but they actually benefit from shorter courses per se, where they can be less aggressive and then go after it. Aaron Wise, what do you think? You showed some form. Can I convince you? Come on in.
Yeah. You don't have to convince me on Wise. Coming off a really good ball striking performance. What was that in Mexico? Where he, 2 weeks ago. Gained 6 strokes with the ball striking. So it's really good to see him kind of get back on track. And, he brings kind of the scoring to the table that, we're looking for this week with the 4 par 5s, with a course that definitely rewards some length. So, yeah, I mean, 7K, really good price for him because we saw kind of around the middle of last year when he started playing well. He's got some upside. He's got some scoring ability. The course should fit. And the price, I mean, really, it didn't adjust. I know the T19 isn't something that should really bring a guy's price up that much, but I mean, I didn't see his putting stats, but I'm guessing he didn't putt too well considering he gained 6 shots with the ball striking. So yeah, I mean, I actually really like that.
He lost 3 on the greens.
Yeah. It wasn't really someone I was considering just because I hadn't kind of factored in how well he hit it in Mexico. But I really like that, actually.
He's one of my favorite lower end plays of the week. I just think trending upward, quietly getting back into form. And he had a rough start to the year. So that's a good buy low spot. Real quick, as I always say on the show, everyone, we do love chat. If you can hit the like button while you're watching, we do appreciate it. And while you're doing that, I've gotten more messages about one guy so far during this show than anyone. And it is the 2-time, I believe, champ, Matt Every. 7,400. I mean, I'll just go immediately. I have 0. I have no interest in him. I know he's playing pretty well, but I still think that's a lot of that is priced in. What about you? Are you going to Matt Every here?
No, I don't think I'm going to go to Matt Every, but I will say he's a lot cheaper than I thought he would be. And the outright odds, I thought he'd be like 60 to 1. I mean, not that I don't think he's a good bet at 100 to 1, but we've just seen where he's played well this year.
Absolutely.
On the web.com, PGA Tour, a little bit back and forth, but he's playing well. Two-time winner here. Usually when these things come together, you just see some outrageous price where he's like 50-1 and like 8,500. So I don't mind the price or the odds, but I mean, I don't think I'll get there. I mean, I don't really chase the super course history guys, and he's like, his picture, when you look up course history, like they have his picture right next to the word course history in the dictionary.
I honestly would be, if Matt Every in this field was 9,300, I would have more interest because he would be like 1% owned, and we've seen he can win. The problem is actually that he came in lower than I thought in terms of price, and he's going to be, Matt Every is not going to be like a 2% player. Like,
No.
people are going to play him, and the miscut equity for me is far out exceeds. If he kills me, that's the least of my problems.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I don't think he's gonna play bad. I
know I'm not even saying
Yeah.
particularly bad, but when you can take him, or you can pay an extra $100 for someone like RCB, for Benny On, Chad brought up, as a one-off, like I'd rather play Hao Tong Lee if I had to. There's just a lot of options. I'm not there with Matt Every. I'm just not.
and like you said, he won't be highly owned, but people will go there because of the 2 wins, because the price is pretty reasonable, and he's playing well. I mean, people are going to go there. So yeah, he's not going to be your 2% dart throw, like you said.
No, and that's the thing. And that's why if his price was egregiously overpriced, I'd say, you know what, give me some Matt Every 5%, but that's not going to do anything here. And I just think there's a huge, huge scenario where he just plays. I mean, Matt Every, as good as he's been playing, also, if you zoom out a bit, he has strings of like, months of miscuts just racking him up. So let's not.
He's had to have figured something out. I mean, he's like, I don't think he's the player that missed 47 cuts in a row. But yeah,
he really missed. Like, he had a big stretch, and then he popped, and he came in 61st at RBC. That was his crowning achievement.
He found his form.
I don't know. So that's not for me. Now we get to the basement. And as we said at the top of the show, it's not Keith Clearwater, no offense, guy, if you happen to be watching. There's real players down here. You got Neiman and plenty of other guys as you work down. So these can be your last man in those aggressive lineups.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Neiman. I kind of like him. I don't know if I like him as much as Wise. But the ball striking obviously will throw him in the same boat as Benny On. The ball striking has been there. Very good last 2 events. Almost gave 9 shots with the ball striking. Literally gave him all back with the putter. Just been atrocious. But 6,900 brings scoring upside. Higher percentage of players going to make the cut. I have no problem with Neiman. I think he's a decent course fit. The other guy I like is Taylor Gooch at 6,800, who has just gets insanely hot with the irons. He's just had some approach game events where he's just he gained 6.5 strokes at Honda, finished T20, came off a couple missed cuts, but then we saw him on the California swing finish 3rd and 4th, where he was just throwing darts all event. So yeah, I kind of like Gooch, who just seems to mix in, a little inconsistent, but just mixes in some just insanely good approach game events. He's on the season gaining over a stroke per round with his approaches. So I like him at 6,800 as well.
It's hard not to, which gives me concern, I'll be honest, because I think he could be one of those guys where he's like, I'm just throwing a number out, but like 15%. And when you're sub 7 and you're that kind of ownership, it's dicey. One of the reasons I think that is I don't see that many good one-offs and pivots from him. Like I looked at CT Pan was just bad last week. He did not play well. I'm still fine going back there, but I'm not super confident in him. Streelman, I don't feel great about. Bill Haas needs to gain 5 strokes putting just to make the cut. You can't go there, or at least unless you're really aggressive. And then it's, you've got some guys with spotty track records, or, like the Ernie Els brigade. One guy I want to mention, just your thoughts. JJ Spawn, he's creeping down there, or he's still just Spawn. Spawn, we got to wait until he has his moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd prefer him on a shorter course. I mean, he's just the form has just been his bad. He has not been good. The price is right, but if we were playing, like Colonial this week or something, I'd feel like I'd be willing to take a shot of him coming out of just kind of horrific form at a shorter track. I don't know if I love him so much at the 7,400-yard course. It's tough. I mean, the names and the players down here, they're not bad, but there's just not any. I mean, you're looking for some guy that's like gained a ton of strokes ball striking, or just is strung together a bunch of good finishes, or I think the course really fits well. And I'm just not finding it. I mean, the names aren't terrible, but I just don't see a lot of plays I love. Somebody on Twitter had mentioned Danny Lee, who I'm a fan of. I like him. I actually didn't realize, he struck it really well last week. Just didn't putt well at 6,600. I don't know. You have any love for Danny Lee? I really didn't realize that he struck it so well and kind of putted poorly. The T36, that's not catching anybody's attention.
So those are the type of guys. There's a couple. Kevin Na was one. I think Wise wasn't like he's quietly trending upward. And if you wait any longer, I'm not saying it completely works like this, but if he explodes for a fourth, then it's over. You missed that little window. So the time to kind of, if you think it's coming, is to buy now. I definitely see that it's Danny Lee. So I think we all know there's serious inherent risk when you play that guy. But he has gained with the irons in 4 straight, and there's no reason he can't go low, especially, guys like him. I severely prefer calm conditions. Like if it looks windy, that would really lessen my interest. But if he can go flag hunting, easier cut to make, there's no reason why he can't give you a pretty decent showing. God, Brian, I'm not saying to play him, but Brian Harman and Brendan Steele they're going to break the min. Like they might have to be in the 5s at some point. Just a new algorithm. What has happened? You remember when they were like 12K?
Yeah. I mean, Steele is really shocking to me because he was so steady. That guy was like a cash game just lock for like 2 or 3 years straight, and he's just been bad. I mean, Harman I've never liked, so I can't say I'm surprised that he's playing this bad. We've seen him kind of be up and down. Relies on the putter a little bit, which I think just that alone will cause quite a bit of volatility. But I just can't believe how Steele went from just being such a consistently decent player to just how bad he's been. I mean, he's just kind of fallen apart. So it's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he was on a cut streak that was ridiculous, and then he made that quad and still made the cut at Hunt. Like he was one of the most reliable players, and he's just completely lost it, which it happens. I don't have much left. I do, one of the first questions we got in chat, and I hope they continue to watch, was about Stuart Sink. He is only 6,200. I get it in cash, obviously. He's a pretty solid player. He battles back a lot. He luck boxed the cut last week. I was not a fan of that. I'm kind of indifferent on the play overall. I don't think he's going to get you too much upside if you're playing an aggressive tournament with like 100K up top, but you could do worse in smaller field stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. The ball striking really dropped off from where we saw it last year and maybe the year prior. I don't quite remember, but I mean, he was always a guy he didn't have a ton of upside, but he was making cuts, and top 25 was kind of definitely within reach. He would just strike the ball so well, and a lot of people didn't play him because he's old Stuart Sink. But yeah, kind of like the last guy in on your cash team. But the ball striking has really dropped off. This year it's just not where it was. Losing 0.43 on approach. That's pretty concerning for me. So yeah, I mean, there's nobody I really like down here. So if you're punting, I wouldn't mind it. It's not like I could recommend somebody that I really
not even love. Richie, your boy.
He's been bad too.
Not good.
Just not good. Yeah, I don't know what happened. He kind of went through a hot stretch. Him and Connors are the two guys who.
I forgot about that guy.
Just randomly will gain 10 strokes on approach, like once every like 3 months and contend somewhere. But yeah, Warinsky hasn't been bad. I don't know. People are probably going to play this Victor Hovland guy as like the next coming of Matthew Wolf, next coming of
Norman Jung,
Norman Zhang,
Maverick McNeely.
Maverick McNeely,
Uh,
Ryan Ruffles or
oh yeah,
whatever.
Ruffles. There's yeah, you remember Anders Albertson when he was gaining 10 strokes on the approach?
Yeah,
Like
not so much anymore.
cumulative, he might not gain 10 strokes on the approach for the rest of the year, but
he's still probably ranked like 30th in strokes gained approach on the season.
Yeah, when you gain 10, that'll float you for a while. There's a couple, I mean, again, I played some Burgoon last week. He did, he made the cut and then he faded and he didn't do anything. I don't know if you want to go this low. Can you do it? Yeah, you can. These guys are not the worst, but it seems like an unnecessary risk when you can find some extra bucks and get to the guys kind of in that mid sixes. Not saying they're safe, but they're safer. Victor Hovland. I mean, yeah, these Oklahoma State guys. How many guys are on their golf team? Every guy in every field is just, oh yeah, he plays for Oklahoma State. Like, what is
powerhouse?
That? Yeah, seriously, Ricky starting the dominance.
I'll just say anybody that's cheaper than Robert Gomez is rating out as an extreme value in my model. So but Robert Gomez should be about, I don't know, 4,500 maybe. I don't know.
Is that?
What price would he have to be to play him? I wanted to kind of throw that out on Twitter. Like, just knowing you're going to get 278s. I mean, like, free? I mean, I don't know. Like,
I mean, if he was say 1,000 and he got you like 25 points because he's only playing 2 rounds. I wonder how that would. I mean, there's people a lot smarter than me that could figure these things because then you could jam like you have like Rory, Day, Rose, Bryson, Gomez.
I'll have to ask like Drewby or like
Drewby, Nelson, smart people that know what they're talking about.
Well, that's why I love Showdown in NFL because there's always you're looking for that like $300 guy that can just like catch like one pass for 20 yards. Been like, oh, I'm good now.
He works in the cafeteria, but he's suited up, and then he comes that guy on the Packers.
Yeah, like the third tight end or something.
Always. But now the moment that everyone's been waiting for before we get out of here, who is because unlike we don't. I should just start playing everyone apparently because I'm missing these outrights. Who's the one silver bullet? That's what we want. Who's the man?
Silver bullet? And this is take 3. Is Hideki again. I cannot get away from him. He just sits there at 28, 33 to 1. I think this week I got him at 28 to 1. I don't know, man. He's like a better version of Grillo who just goes out and strikes the ball insanely well week in and week out.
Not saying much. Grillo.
That was awful last week.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean I honestly didn't see a lot that I loved. And I've just been really, you know me, I'll go back to the same well on these guys multiple times in a row. It actually worked with Webb Simpson last year, so I'm hoping it works with Hideki. But yeah, I mean, I just think you could see him at 16 to 1, 14 to 1 under different circumstances in this event. And I don't think he's far away from that, given how well he's been striking the ball. We just haven't seen that one really good finish or, one event where he really contends in. So, I mean, I like it. I like him at 28 to 1. I mean, if he was down sub 20 to 1, I don't think I'd have any interest in it, but.
No, it seems, I mean, it's tough to attack the top guys, the Rorys of the world, but you get that next tier, like Fleetwood, Decky, there's some very good players. And as much as I would I look to bet Wise this week because I really do like him. It's just very hard, even in an event like this. It's not a WGC, but it's the same concept of it's just tough for a bomb to come. There's so many good players up top. Can they do it? Of course. It's just I think you're better off trying to stick to the Deckies and the Leishmans and those type of guys. If you don't want to go, it's tough taking some of these dudes at short odds. I get that. It's not good Twitter marketing, which is what we're all after anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I spent the better part of the last 2 years trying to chase these like 100, 150 to 1 guys. And I mean, as we saw last week, it happened.
It can happen.
But I mean, just week in and week out, the elite players are winning, and I mean, if Keith Mitchell doesn't make that putt on 18, there's no doubt in my mind that either Ricky or Brooks wins that
Yeah,
playoff.
I
So it
was
was like it would have been
very
curtains for Killer Keith if he didn't make that putt on
any
18.
gutsy putt. I give him credit. I'm not the biggest Keith Mitchell guy. What a putt. Because he's
No,
not a good putter.
he played great. I kept waiting for him to make a bogey, and it never happened. And then I was almost certain when he hit a bad drive on 18 that he wasn't going to get up and down from like a $120, and he did. So good for him.
Absolutely. But no, I'm with you. On that note, we'll any last words before we bounce out? Obviously, me and Jason Roslin tomorrow night, live before lock. Chat, we hope you're as active tomorrow. We had some good conversation, Q&A, whatever else you guys want to get into. We'll be doing that tomorrow. But any final thoughts before we deck on out of here?
No, I don't think so. Play the guys in the mid sevens because they're better than the guys in the mid eights, and you're getting $1,000 discount. That's my parting shot.
I don't mind it. Yeah, I think this week you can afford to take some shots, but don't get over, just with anything in general, but like don't overemphasize. Yeah, it's 123 guys or whatever, but you still can't just waltz in there, play horrible, and make the cut. Like you need players, so keep it within reason if you are doing stars and scrubs. And you want to be creative, leave a little money on the table, do whatever you need. But like I said, we're going to bounce on out of here. As always, thanks for joining. Hit the like button on your way out. If you have any questions, if it's negative, at Tim Frank. If you want to compliment the show, at JazzRazDFS. And we will see you next week for the players. Good luck, everyone.